We're so used to like being, oh, I'm okay. But no, no, no. If you want to be like a rock star, it doesn't mean that you think that you're great. It just means that, you believe in yourself. And that's like the whole thing, right? Okay, so let's dance.
Everybody lack confident. Everybody lack confident.
Yeah.
How many times my potential was anonymous? How many times the city making me promises? So I promise this. I love myself. The world is a ghetto with guns and dicky signs. I love myself. But they can do what they want whenever they want. I don't mind. I love myself. He said I gotta get up. I said more than suicide. I love myself. One day at a time. Sun go shine. They wanna say it's a war outside and a bomb in the street and a gun in the hood and a mob of police and a rock on the corner.
As you know, the industry has changed. Now we're shooting all over the country. There could be some on here that are missing. I've had people start in Omaha, Nebraska, believe it or not, and start making money there, and then use that experience to come down to New Orleans. That was Elias. You can now get experience where you live. You've got to do this. If you don't, you're just like everybody else. So you've got to get experience where you live, move to a larger market, and that could be LA. Because once you get experience where you live, now you're ready. You can move to LA, or you can move to Chicago, or you can move to Atlanta, or you can move to New Orleans. All of those are totally, totally hot markets. And then this becomes your new home, the film set. We're going to talk about how to act, produce, and how to get into any of these specialties that make money. I'm talking about camera, wardrobe, even like director's rep. I mean, there's so many specialties that you never even heard of. All you know about is possibly acting or directing, because that's like what comes to the forefront of your mind. Maybe you've been in a play, and that's all that you know, and you know you love that. Well, there's a lot more that you can possibly do if you want to. Now, it doesn't matter if you don't have experience or much money or don't know anybody, because basically I'm showing you the way that I did it. And I didn't have any of this. I didn't even know that there was such a thing as film school, really. I never thought about it. So how I got in was I just did it my way. Now I hope that you're really listening to this, because if you're multitasking, that is something that most people that are never successful do. And I know from my experience in everything that I've accomplished, you cannot multitask because you half-ass it. What we're talking about is becoming known in your niche. Now you might not know your niche quite yet. Your niche could be, if you're an actor, it could be your type. It could be the kind of roles that you're naturally thought of. Like, maybe it's more comedy, maybe it's more drama. Some people, you have the look and it's like, no, you're never going to work in commercials because you don't have that right look. That's just the way it is. But they need to go more towards drama or feature films. So you need to become known in your niche. If you're a director, maybe you veer more towards special effects. Maybe you veer more towards comedy. Maybe you veer more towards like a commercial look, like a clean professional commercial look, or telling little stories. And this is all so that you guys can have an extraordinary life. That's what I'm about, is I want you to not have a life that I was going to have, which was boring and full of pain, and have a great frickin' life. So here's a picture of my Emmy that I got for National Geographic, the relationship between sperm whales and giant squid. I started out, I was not, as you guys know, hopefully from hearing my story before, I had no advantages. I didn't know anybody, and I would have loved to have been born into show business, like everybody probably would have. And, if you feel like you have so much that you have to overcome, well, I felt like that too. So, I tried so hard because I wanted to overcome and I wanted to show the world and everything. So I worked so hard, and, I got really good grades in college. I got a business degree, and then I got a job. And, the thing is that doing all that did not lead me at all to the life I wanted to get. Not at all. And so I knew that society's answers was not going to get me to where I wanted to go. All of a sudden I realized that. I'm like, hey, I did everything right, but this is not where I want to be. So I knew that I needed to change from this hopeful, nice Midwestern girl to something. And I didn't know what, you guys. I didn't know what. Like, maybe you guys, you kind of have an idea, but you don't really know what you're going to grow into. It is hard to see what. And that's okay. In fact, it's better to just have this open mind about what you want to grow into and just kind of let it just discover it, as you go. So this is a guy that kind of helped me change the way that I was thinking. Sort of like how I'm helping you change the way that you're thinking, and it changed the whole entire course of my life. So he had traveled all over the world and backpacked all over for a year, and I just couldn't even believe. I'm like, that is exactly what I want to do. I've kind of felt like, hey, this is my chance. and I need to try to do this. So I did. And even with all my insecurities and a lack of belief in myself, I just took off to travel the world. I flew to Singapore, then Indonesia. I cashed in my retirement from selling, and that's what that's what was funding my travels, was my retirement. Hey, it was the best investment I ever made, right? But I didn't know how to travel the world. And sure, I was really afraid, and I had to figure it out. Like, where do you buy a ticket there? And I would jump into a taxi and get lost and go to the wrong train station, not the main train station. Then I missed that train station. I have to wait till the next day, and then I had to find a place to sleep. And then, so, it was just like, you just had to keep figuring it out. And having to do that over and over and over really trained me to continue to keep figuring it out, which was just wonderful training. And that's why I teach it so strongly with you guys, is that, just making yourself figure it out. Then you go faster and faster. It's easier and easier. And things that seem like a big deal, they're not such a big deal anymore, because you just keep figuring it out and you keep trusting yourself, and you do build confidence that way. So I did change during this time by doing this. And this is what I want to teach you as well. I had no experience. I had no connections. I didn't even really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something. I wanted to have this amazing life. I went to Africa, and in Africa, I came across a film crew, and they were not National Geographic. I don't think they were. They were shooting for somebody else, but they're traveling all over the world filming people. And I was like, oh my God, you guys do this? You're getting paid to do this? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. Wow, I want to work for National Geographic. That'd be awesome. Okay, so here's the thing. I never thought of it, and you might never have thought of your niche either, by the way, you guys. You're not exposed to it yet, just like I wasn't at that time. So you are going to find that you may just stumble into something that is just like, boom, like just perfect for you. In fact, I know that you will. If you want to be in the business, any personality can find what is the perfect thing for them, And it may not just be acting. It might be acting and something else. And then eventually you might decide to go entirely into something else. I could have thought, like, should I wait? Should I, at this point I was still traveling, and I'm like, hey, I want to do National Geographic, so maybe I should go back to the United States and just, work on it back there. Because I'm in Africa, for God's sake. What am I going to do in Africa? But then again, I saw this film crew there, so I was like, no, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to see what the heck I can do here. And that's what I did. So I went to South Africa, which is down at the bottom there. See my cursor? And there I got into a youth hostel, where you can pay like $10 a night. And I was like, I just want to watch wildlife films. And they had a lot of wildlife films because you're in Africa, for goodness sake. So I would watch the wildlife films, and I would write down the names of the companies, everybody who was involved. And I met a lot of people, and I traveled around and I met people. One of the things that I did was I saw this magazine article, and it was this guy that was in the magazine article, and he was from Boulder, Colorado. His name's David Broccoli. I called up the magazine editor, and I'm like, hey, can I have this guy's phone number? And he's like, yeah, sure, here's his number. So then I call up David. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm here in Joburg. You're here too, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, hey, I'd love to meet you. And he's like, okay, cool. Well, we're going down to this bar. Come on down to this bar. We're going to be playing pool and stuff. So I went down to the bar, and I walk in there, and he's there playing pool with the Bang Bang Club, which you're going to learn is like these famous people, and all these Pulitzer Prize winning journalists that I still see in the news even today, 20 years later. These people are still famous. And so I meet all of these people, and just in the best, most casual environment. And this is what I recommend you guys do too. You get yourself where the right people are, and that is how you slam dunk get the opportunities. So I never even thought about working for ABC News. Those guys, but David's like, hey, why don't you work for ABC News? And he's like, here, just call these guys up. They probably could use your help. I'm like, sure. So I call them up, and then I get a job. And what's happening at this time? There's a photo that David took, but this is pretty wild stuff down there. There's kind of like a little bit of a war, and you are a photojournalist, and you're going into the townships and documenting what's happening. So I worked for ABC News. I went to a ton of parties for journalists. I had some crazy ass experiences. Basically what I was doing what I teach you guys to do in the mentorship program, and that's called the vectoring method. Okay, so what that is, it's when, first of all, you get experiences that are unique, okay? And you get them by being courageous and reaching out to people. So you start to get some experiences going. And then you meet people and you use those experiences and those people to vector towards your next experience. And this, by doing this, it's exceptional. And you're figuring stuff out and you're going forward. That's vectoring. But you've got your eye on where you're going. You're vectoring towards a goal. For me, I was vectoring towards National Geographic. Then I vectored towards getting into commercials. And when you do this, all of your brain, all of your energies is going towards that one goal, and you frickin' do it. It's the coolest thing. And the thing is that everybody in the world wants you to be successful. And they're like, oh, wow, you did this. And, oh, you know that person? Okay, great. Yeah, sure. Hey, you should go meet this person. So once you just get the process going, it really is kind of like dominoes. So this is a process that I teach in the mentorship program, vectoring. Now this is the Bang Bang Club, which I just mentioned. These are the actual actors, because they did a movie about these guys. The guy, Greg Marinovich, who's the guy in the black there, he was, and then James Nakway is one of the Pulitzer Prize winning journalists right there. And the other Pulitzer Prize winning journalist is behind him. Then João Silva is right there in the upper corner there. This is João. And David probably took this picture, because David, I don't know who that could be. I don't think, no. Anyway, this is when the shooting started happening, and Greg got shot, and Kevin got shot, and Ken Oostenbrook actually died, and I was right there then. So not only did I go to parties, I also went to funerals. Heavy stuff, but real stuff, and nobody can take these experiences away from me. And the fact is that as you get into your life, you're going to have experiences that you will be like, never in my frickin' world did I think I would be here and having these experiences. But the fact is that you're making incredible connections when you vector. And the thing is you got to start it now. Like, vectoring is something that it takes some courage, and the best way to do it is to just start it. Because if you don't, then basically you kind of atrophy into somebody that just asks for help. But nobody wants to help anybody that just asks for help. Like, you know, they want to help somebody that has had experiences, and they can say, oh yeah, I worked with elephants in Africa, and this elephant's not dead, this elephant is asleep, which is incredible. How, you know, think about the drugs you got to give an elephant to get them to sleep like this. And then they pulled them into a big semi-truck, and then we moved them. It was an elephant relocation project, and we were running around with helicopters. So, you know, the thing is that if you do it now, then you get experiences like this faster, and you just start vectoring faster. And then you actually kind of, all your fears start to melt away, and you just keep getting into the most amazing experiences and meeting the right people. And really, you won't learn this anywhere else because nobody else teaches this. I mean, have you ever heard this in school? Does any professors talk about this? That's because they're not doing it, because they're sitting in the classroom. The only way to learn how to vector is to vector. And that's what I did, and that's what I still do. I'm always vectoring. Even today, I'm always vectoring, and I've done it several times in my life with different things that I've done, with different types of businesses that I've started. Anyway, that's how you get success. Okay, so all of this hard work, it worked, and I came to Los Angeles with experience, so I vectored my way to Los Angeles, and as you can see, I had plenty of stories to talk about. You know, I would talk about the Bang Bang Club, and the elephant, and relocation, and all the people that I knew, and so I'm coming to LA, you guys. Exceptional. And it's not like I'm like saying, hey, I'm exceptional. You know, it's more like, yeah, hey, yeah, I just got here from Africa. And people are like, oh, really, Africa? And now you would say, yeah, I just got here from Chicago, and I was working on this show. And they're like, okay, cool, Chicago. Oh, this show. Hey, do you know that person? Now, see, when you come to a city and you know some people and you've worked in the business, you're already a peer. You're at the same level that they are. So it's so easy, you guys. But if you come to LA without that experience, then you're just like, then you want help. So the vectoring method is, number one, know exactly what you want. Okay? Now, at this point, you guys, if you're starting the mentorship program, you may not know what you want, and that's okay. Then you are knowing that you want to find out what you want to do. And that's a really great thing to vector towards. It's really just having a focused mind on figuring out what it is that you want to learn, and what kind of life you want. And then you're vectoring towards doing a lot of inquiry and talking to a lot of people to figure that out. Totally makes sense, right? Number 2 is learn the landscape you want to master. So if you just come to Los Angeles knowing nothing about how the business works, not only having done background on set, you just don't know the landscape at all. You don't know the people involved, you don't know the processes, you don't know the difference between a union feature and a medium budget feature or a TV show. You think it's all great, but that's not good because you don't know the landscape at all, and you're not a peer to anybody. So when I was in Africa, the landscape that I wanted to master was wildlife filmmaking and adventure stuff. So I went there and I met those people. That's how you learn from those people, and then you get experiences from being with those people. Then you can talk about it, and then you use those experiences to move up towards the place that you want to go. And it's really not that hard to do. And the last element of it is that you really need to expect to succeed. Huge, because if you are doing it and you're like, oh, I hope this works, then you're coming from a place of hope. But when you expect it to succeed, you're like, oh yeah, I was here and now I'm going to do this. And people are like, okay, cool. They're just like open their doors to you when you expect to succeed. It's a different place to stand. And you may have never been exposed to this way of thinking, but to be successful, this is the way of thinking that you must develop. And this is what we teach in the mentorship program. It's not like it was always up for me, because in my process of vectoring, I pissed some people off. One of my first jobs in Los Angeles was working on an AFI student film. And I remember going up these stairs, going into that set. Now, I didn't piss off anybody at the AFI, but I remember I was there working on the student film. And by the way, I'd never been in a building like that before. I was like, oh my gosh, they don't have this kind of stuff in Wisconsin. Yeah, they don't. But anyway, so it was really cool. Here I am working on a student film, which is really great. And I call this guy who was my only connection in Los Angeles. And he was only my connection because I had met through a wildlife filmmaker that I had met through vectoring. I vectored and met this woman who's a producer for National Geographic. And she's like, oh, okay, well, you're moving to Los Angeles, so you should really talk to this guy in Los Angeles. So I had called this guy from Wisconsin. I had called him from Jackson Hole, and then I called him from AFI. And apparently I had called him way too many times because he was like, I remember the phone call. I was on the payphone. I call him, hey, Bob. Hi, it's Janet. Hey, I was wondering if you have anything on set that I can come and visit you on set. He's like, Janet, I'm sure you're going to be very successful, but I don't want to have anything to do with you. Goodbye. And hung up. And I missed a little part there. I'm sure you're going to be very successful, Janet, because you're so aggressive. But I don't want to have anything to do with you. And he hung up on me. All right. Then I was like, oh, no. Like, it was worse feeling than just that. It was like, OMG. I have just lost the only connection I had here, which really wasn't a very strong connection anyway. What it was is I was so driven. I was calling him. I woke him up at like 5 in the morning. I wasn't thinking about him at all. It was all about me. And you can't do that. So I did that quite a few times. And I tell you this because I am very diligent about making sure that my people don't make these mistakes, because I've never seen this guy again. I never will see him again, probably. And, it's like the mistakes did not prevent me from getting successful. However, they can be avoided because it's not good when you're only coming from only your perspective. And this is Joshua Tree, where they had these really wild rock foundations, and this is where I met my husband. And I knew that I wanted to meet somebody that was exciting and adventurous, and so I'm like, a climber, that'd be totally cool. So I went around, and I would just go talk to climbers. And I had done this all day. I arrived at like 10 o'clock at night, slept in the backseat of my car, got up the next morning. I just walked around talking to climbers all day. I'm like, yeah, I really like to learn how to climb. Anyway, right before I left, I saw this guy here, and I was like, hey, what you been doing? He's like, yeah, I just climbed that thing. And he was bleeding, and he was carrying all this equipment, and I was just like, wow, you are one yummy, 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 yummy guy. So I gave him my card, which was my very first business card, which I show you how to do into the mentorship program. And he still has it today. He kept it. And yeah, so this is like 20 years ago. So I'm telling you, vectoring led me to my man, because he would never have been interested in me if I was just like, yeah, just not having the, it was really kind of the guts, the belief in myself, the independence, the wanting to have an incredible life and not relying on him for everything that led me. That's why he's attracted to me. So you kind of grow into being that person. And the only way you grow into it is by doing it. You have to do it. You really have to do it. And the time to do it is now, because that's how you learn it. You're like, now, not tomorrow. I cannot wait another day. And because of that, I had amazing shoots. Like I went down to the Amazon, and this is in Venezuela in the Amazon. I still work with her. Her name's Alexa. Oh my gosh, I still work with her today. She's lovely. And then they interviewed me. And then we went to Patagonia, and this is my mentor. One of my mentors, like in the mentorship program, I show you how to find your mentors. And this is my mentor, Jeff Foote. And here we are sitting in the boma, drinking this tea. And then here we are up in Alaska. This is the producer. He loved me. Sometimes things just aren't going well, and it's cold and rainy. But then things get better, and you're all happy again. That was Jacques Cousteau's granddaughter is right here. And then back down to the Amazon, shooting anacondas, a film of anacondas and piranha. And then back down to Patagonia, staying with this family that only spoke Spanish, and that's where I learned Spanish. Then I worked with this geographic cameraman, Jeff Wayman, who lives now in Thailand. This is with the little monkey from The Hangover. And this little monkey hits the men on the head and sticks his tongue in the woman's mouth if she like is on your back. Anyway, so yeah, my life today is working on sets and helping my people find their niche and have a career. And I work with a ton of celebrities. I'm working with Samuel Jackson actually Saturday. This coming Saturday, I believe, is Samuel Jackson. But yeah, all these people I've worked with and met and been at their houses. And, you know, it's like you have little stories. And I could tell you all the stories, but then we'd run out. I don't have time to do that. We're all focusing on what you want. I mean, like you're focusing on, oh, this is what I want. I can taste it. I can feel it. I want it. Okay, that's good. It's like your motivation. But isn't this whole thing really about how you want to feel inside? Like, isn't it about how you want to feel and spend your day? It's more about like what you want, how you want to feel. Because you can like say, oh, I want something so bad. And then when you get it, you're like, oh, I kind of still feel like crap. You might feel great for one day and it's like, oh, I kind of still feel. So, you know, really what it is about how you want to feel. I'm going to talk about this now. It's really fulfillment that we're really after, right? We just want to like feel like we're rocking, like we're making progress. I want to feel good. So, this training is not all about strategy. I could tell you, do this, do this, do this, do this. But if you do these things, you may not be fulfilled. And in fact, if I show you this way to do it, where you're feeling good, you're learning, you're making progress, then you're actually going to be able to do the strategy and do it really well because you're in that different place. You have a lot more power and a lot more happiness and a lot more sparkle in you. And then the door's open. All right, so this is like gold, you guys. I teach this in my mentorship program, and this is like what makes the biggest difference. This is like the secret, okay? How do you move fast in the film industry? Here's the secret, okay. This was came from Tony Robbins. Now, being able to apply these to my life changed my life. And now you're going to see why in a second. You're like, okay, certainty. I can't really see what the big deal is about that. Okay, certainty is the need to feel safe, okay? We need to feel safe. Like we need to know that we have a job. We need to know that we have a house to go home to, that we can pay our rent. We want to know that the economy is going to be good. You know, it's this feeling inside of feeling safe, certainty. We want certainty. We want to like have some assurance that we're going to be successful. It's kind of like the survival instinct. We all have this need. So the question to ask yourself is, how much certainty do you need to have before you do things? Okay, I know I need certainty in my life, but actually the film industry, there's not a lot of certainty, is there? This is a freelance business. So if this is a big need, you're going to live smaller because you have to know how things are going to turn out. You're afraid to step out because you need to know. It's like you have no idea how your career is going to turn out, you guys. You have no idea. You cannot predict what's going to happen in a month, in 6 months, in a year. I just want to tell you that the people that need it to be certain, their careers don't turn out that good. Okay, that's probably the biggest point. Their careers kind of don't turn out that good because they're always like judging. Okay, yeah, the business is busy now, the business is not busy now. You know, they're always kind of making assessments because they've got to be right and they want to be certain and they want to have this safe feeling. Here's my point, yes, I don't do that because I've learned that, you know what, I just focus on the relationships, and I just have a really good, tight time with a lot of people, and that's what I'm certain about. So what jobs are going to be, I don't worry about it. And then I'm in a much better place, and I work all the time because of that, okay? It's a funny thing, isn't it? All right, so the next need is, the need for uncertainty. We all have the need to have variety in our lives. If we always knew what was going to happen, then things would be boring. So we have the need for uncertainty as well. Uncertainty is just kind of like, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen, but bring it. I'm ready. I'll do it. It doesn't matter. And then there's that. Then if you just have if you say, okay, you know, the need for uncertainty, hey, that's all right. I welcome that. And you really start to live that way, and you don't need certainty anymore, then what kind of life do you think you're going to have? I mean, what kind of life is a person that needs to have certainty going to have versus a person that's driven by uncertainty? Because you're either driven by one or the other. Certainty is going to have a certain kind of flavor in your life. It's going to look a certain way. Like, you're going to be playing it safe probably a lot of times. And then somebody that's like, no, I don't need certainty. I'm like, I'm turned on by uncertainty. They're going to be like out there doing a lot more things, having a lot more conversations. You know, they're going to be growing a lot because they're like, hey, I don't know, but hey, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to try it. So here is a great saying. I love this. And when I saw it, I was like, holy crap, this is like, wow, this is groundbreaking. The quality of my life is directly proportionate to the amount of uncertainty that I can comfortably live with. And why is this? Well, it's because when things are uncertain, when you're taking chances, when you're doing shit, then you're growing and you're making progress. And then you feel like great. And that's the quality of your life. The point is that there is no way it is. The answers are not found on the outside. You grow into these answers that you're looking for by having a lot of experiences. Experiences is where it's at. They will lead you to the life that you want, and you will grow into that person. And there is no shortcut to the changes that happen inside you. What gets in the way of doing what's uncertain? You're like, okay, I'm ready to go. Yeah, uncertainty, here we come. Well, what gets in the way is fear. So that's what we're going to work on next. This is so exciting, you guys. I'm telling you, this is going to change your life. So what I want you to do is in the Yammer group, Career on Fire group, post the things that you're certain about and the things that you're uncertain about, okay? And then when you post the things that you're uncertain about, what is the underlying fear? Okay, so number one, what are the things you're certain about? Okay, I'm certain that I love my family. I'm certain that I love my doggie. I'm certain that I want to work in the film industry. I'm certain that I love acting. I'm certain that I love directing or I love writing. Number two, what are the things that you're uncertain about? Well, I'm uncertain about when I'm going to get actually into the business. I'm uncertain about how good I am. I'm uncertain about how I'm going to be able to make money and make this a career. I'm uncertain about the next steps to take. I'm uncertain about whether I'm very good at making people like me. Just throwing it out there. Because that was one of mine. I'm uncertain about how to connect with people in the industry. That was one of mine. Okay, and then what is the underlying fear about your uncertainties? Okay, so usually the underlying fear boils down to whether I'm good enough or not. You know, we all have the fear that we're not good enough and that we won't be loved. Those are the basic fears. Like when you have a loss of power when you're talking to somebody of influence, like a producer or director, you have a loss of power. It's because the fear comes up in you that I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know what I have to offer. I don't know, it's like you don't even think about that. Those are not the thoughts there, but it's more like the feelings. So what we're doing here is we're taking the things that are floating around in your head anyway, and we're putting it down. We're putting it out there. And when you put it out there, now we can actually deal with it. When it's just stuff floating around your head, it's kind of like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm going to procrastinate. But when you put it down on paper for you and everybody else to see, you're going to see that everybody feels the same way, and then you're going to have some ammunition. You're going to be like, okay, the underlying fear is that I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I am inspired enough. I don't know, whatever the underlying fear is, whatever it is for you, just write it down. And then you have something to work from. So thank you very much. And great. It was great to talk to you. Great presentation. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.